15th Palm Beach County Board of County Commissioners hearing back to order. Commissioner Sachs, can you hear us all right? Let me make sure we have Commissioner Sachs. Yeah, trying to stall. All right, well, we will make sure that Commissioner Sachs will have an opportunity to speak in comments and also has an opportunity to vote. And I'm just waiting for Commissioner Marino to return so that she doesn't miss any of the proceedings. So bear with me. Here you are. Here's some more updated, not on this. Vice Mayor Weinroth, you're recognized.
Thank you. Stephanie, I'd like to ask you a question. We've heard a lot of testimony here today. And one of the things that I've really was focused on was this exhibit that we had received from AMR talking about the total yearly trips. And it's an interesting trend. And can you give us your perspective on this? Do you see this trend line trending down?
It's funny that they provided that information. I actually asked for that as well. And, you know, it kind of goes back and forth. We actually did a trend line, you know, going back all the way to 2013, which is the chart that they were showing you. And, you know, it kind of bounces back and forth over the years. When you look at just the last year from 2019 to 2020, it did show a trend downward. And I think a lot of it was because of the COVID and, you know, people wanting to stay at home. I think now that people are getting out and about and, you know, the hospitals indicating that there is growth that's going to happen in this county, I would still not change my recommendation just based on this chart. I think that, you know, our county is going to see growth over the next 5, 6, 10 years. And again, based on our COPCN period, we need to look at over the next 6 years. So I would not just solely base a decision on a trend line going downwards. It is obviously something that we took into consideration, but based on the hospital's feedback, you know, they're again adding more facilities. We're probably having more hospitals coming in Palm Beach County, assisted living facilities, et cetera. So that's going to increase the demand, I think, from an inter-facility transport perspective.
Okay. The other item, and again provided to us by AMR, was their patient-ready status. And they have basically, their testimony is this is an aberration based upon the pandemic. Are you able to confirm that? Can you go back to numbers pre-pandemic to determine if these numbers were in the 90% range versus here where it's 45%?
Okay, so I think maybe I'll just bring some clarification to this. So the top 2 bullets of this PowerPoint slide shows that AMR and medics were mainly 90% compliant and 91% compliant. The bottom 2 bullets is where they're actually, AMR and medics are waiting. They're ready to transport the patient, and they're saying that they have to wait at the hospital because the patient is not ready.
All right, maybe I'm misreading this particular pie chart. It seemed to say that the patient was ready in, my eyes are going, 31,000 times, 45%, and then patient not ready, 55%. But I'm really concerned about the 45%.
Okay, so the patient was ready, meaning they got there, they responded within maybe a timely manner. This chart is a little different. I don't know the timeliness on this, again, going back up to the 90% and 91%. But the patient was ready for transport when they arrived. So there's 55% of the time the patient was not ready, and 45% of the time the patient was.
So I guess my question is, Pre-pandemic, how often, and do we have a standard in our contract here that I've heard before we were talking about a half hour for one of the time periods as far as, I don't know if that was between the time. What are our standards?
Okay.
Let's without me trying to figure out what they are.
Yes. Yeah, it's not on contract, it's the EMS ordinance requirements.
All right.
Thank you for clarifying, Todd. And so pursuant to the request for interfacility transports, requests for urgent nature, but which are not an emergency medical classification and have not been pre-scheduled, they must respond within 30 minutes of the agreed upon time, and this response must be maintained an average of 90%. Routine scheduled calls, which is the majority of the transfers that happen, shall be responded to by having a unit, ALS or BLS, at the requesting facility within 15 minutes of the agreed scheduled time.
15.
15 minutes.
Okay.
So then that's an example that I gave earlier where they call at 9 o'clock in the morning and they want the transport there by 1, they have to be there by 1:15.
All right, and we have no standard with respect to, I would like you to move this patient at 9, they say, how about noon? And they agree to it. That's not something that we're trying to measure the situations where, again, the facility says the patient's ready to move at 9, AMR says, how about noon? We're going to have someone in that area or whatever.
Yeah, I think typically, though, the contract that the AMR and medics, and maybe they can elaborate this, I know we have a copy of a few of them, they have a terms in the contract that says that they need a minimum of 4 hours response time for pre-scheduled, non-emergent type transfers, okay? So if you would like them to speak to that, they can. But just the last bullet that I wanted to pull up or point out is that in talking about the last 2 bullets, our ordinance says, here, in the event that the patient is not ready for transport within 30 minutes of arrival of the ALS unit or BLS unit, the responding agency, which would be AMR or medics, may leave the requesting facility. But obviously they don't for patient care.
Right. And are we trying to quantify their adherence to these standards?
Yes.
Did we have any statistics pre-pandemic?
Yes. That's over the 2-year period we went.
All right, so...
And so during the they were 90%, they maintained the 90% with the exception of the period of the pandemic.
Okay.
And to further that, whoa, hello, can you hear me? To further that, there were a couple of months, again, as AMR indicated, they're not perfect every month, but there was an 89 or 88% in some of those months, which again is in the supplemental package. And I can point those months out if you'd like.
That's okay. The 8,500 NEMT transports they're making, is this correct that they did those basically gratis?
It's my understanding that the call was, and again, AMR is going to have to clarify this, but my understanding in my conversations with them is that the call was made to AMR and medics and that they triaged the call, so they determined the needs for the patient, and then I guess possibly when it's billed to Medicare, they find out that it's not a qualifying transport for ALS or BLS, that then makes it an NEMT. But I don't want to speak to that as I'm not fully educated on what actually occurred of why they have that 8,500 number showing that it should have been an NEMT.
And we heard testimony from the competitor that this was actually proof that they were not triaging the patients correctly and that they shouldn't have found themselves in a position to be transporting 8,500 patients that were not qualified under the either being an ALS or a BLS.
Yeah, and I'm being told by the current provider that they do qualify the patient.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. That's all I have.
All right, let me just make sure that Commissioner Sachs is able to hear us and that she's able to communicate with the board.
Hi, Mayor. This is Commissioner Sachs, and I've been following along very well. I've got a very good and clean connection, and I have nothing, no questions. It's been very informative up to this time. Very well, thank you.
Very good. Well, public comment is now over, and certainly feel free to ask questions, but we are in deliberation, although there's no motion pending on the floor, so I'll lead off with my thoughts and comments on the important public policy issue here today. First and foremost, it's important to understand that there's a reason why the state allows us to govern and, in effect, regulate who is issued a certificate of public necessity and convenience. In fact, in my service as a county mayor, as many people on this board knows, when a secondary COPCN or any COPCN is issued by the board, it's actually a certificate. It's very good, nice looking. I got to sign it in my ministerial duty as the mayor. But the point is the underlying point there is that we are still entrusted with regulating this very important market. Certificate of needs have been taken away from by the legislature, and so hospitals and other medical provider entities can set up shop in the county based upon market influences and things of that nature. And I find it funny that, well, first of all, it's important to note that the legislature still thinks our role in this regard for-profit companies and regulating them is an important role because they haven't taken it away from us yet. Certainly, it was broadened, or maybe lessened is a better term, with the advent of religious and nonprofit organizations being able to provide service, and Vice Mayor Weinroth underlined that point, that it is going to be a paradigm shift, and that we should probably look forward to the time where there are more community-based volunteer organizations supplementing and not providing the direct service, but supplementing our fire rescue and paramedic professionals in this county. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I think it could be a good addition to our county structure, but we don't have any choice. So, but the legislature said that we need to regulate these, and it's not just a market-based economy approach. And when the certificate of need was taken away from us, I started to notice, despite all of the comments by healthcare providers by letter or through their agents here today, that there's a great need for growth in that field and that the market would sustain it. Anytime a new hospital tries to come into this county and set up shop, immediately the other hospitals come to the Board of County Commissioners to deny the land use on that hospital. Because apparently they don't think that they need more medical professionals in this community. And I find it an interesting way to lobby the board by fighting against the new hospital by saying, well, you shouldn't put the zoning in place or you shouldn't put the land use in place. I think that a lot of what needs to happen, there's been a lot of issues uncovered here today, and I'm going to draw on my personal experience as a police officer in the city of Alachua, where we did not have a 911 system. The county had the 911 system. It was a very scary system. So what would happen was if there was an in-progress call, like a shooting or a horrific car crash that required an immediate response by the police, which happened every shift to some degree, if you lived in the city of Alachua, you'd have to call 911. 911 would call the City of Alachua Police Department, and then I could literally hear the 911 operator giving our dispatcher the call and then giving it to us, and it was a very inefficient system. And one of the things I'm going to focus on here is creating efficiencies in the system. We've heard some important testimony about whether you should be calling 911 or you should be calling AMR or medics, and I'm not going to supersede a medical professional's judgment in that regard, but let's just be clear, if there's an emergent, acute situation in this county, every doctor, nurse, whoever is in charge of that patient should be calling 911 if somebody needs to be transferred from one hospital to a higher level of care immediately. But that's not what we're here today on. And so before we affix our name to a certificate of public necessity and convenience, there needs to be a burden met by new applicants to this county structure. And right now we only have AMR and medics. And I think even the applicants that are trying to get a COPCN today have admit in varying degrees that AMR and medics have done a heck of a job. And I'm speaking directly to the men and women in uniform in front of me that we've worked hand in hand with and the healthcare districts work directly with in our Department of Health. Please don't let any of our comments and the lobbying and interests that go on here today take away from the important duty that you have as a partner in our county's EMS system. We're very thankful for what you do day in and day out. Having said that, my perspective is that I adopt the administrator's initial report, And what that means is certainly Darcy Davis has been here all day. I don't think anybody disagrees with your application. We're excited, I believe, to support it. The rest of the applicants that we haven't really discussed, I don't think are making a concerted effort or even attempted to comply with the requirements of the EMS ordinance, except for oh, this is embarrassing. What is it? MCT. I don't know much about the company. They're well represented. I don't know much about their history in this county, or in other counties, rather. I don't know what their corporate structure and what their ability to provide services to this county in a meaningful way is. I know they've requested a minute amount of ambulances to service this county. I think 6 ALS and 6 BLS, which is overall a very small fraction of ambulances in this county. If you look at all the municipal departments, all the county department, and then medics and AMR. And some commissioners have commented that they're relying more heavily on the opinions of other industries or other commentators, and that's certainly their right. I don't think that the way that I make a decision is any more truer or better than anyone else. But I'm relying on my personal experience, and I'm relying on the comments and submissions of people that I trust inherently, and those are, for example, the sheriff of Palm Beach County. Those are the representative agencies that represent communities in my district, whether it's the Delray Alliance or Cobrua, which is Century Village. You know, I take with a grain of salt some of the criticisms of MCT. I've given them an opportunity to comment on that, but I also rely on the initial feedback and position of the county's professional staff, which Stephanie had an initial report that highlighted that based on initial survey findings, a majority of users do not want more ambulance providers. She highlighted the needs were sometimes met, but still do not want to replace or have more ambulance providers. She highlighted some users indicated delay response times, however, did not provide data to support the response. And I think if there's one point of agreement on this board at this point is that the data in this process is flawed, and it's no fault of the county's government. Maybe we could do more as policymakers to require or mandate certain things, but we've learned from that process here today. And one of the things that MCT brought up was that Broward County requires in their ordinance that acute emergency calls are handled by 911. And I think there was some confusion either in the board or in the healthcare facilities about how that should work in this county. But let's be clear, if somebody needs help, call 911. Data provided by the current providers mainly showed that 91% compliance rate over 2 years with the exception of the period of the pandemic. And we've heard about their pandemic service in this county, and I'm very thankful for that. We also heard from the fire chief that he's perfectly happy with the way the structure is and that there are no challenges. And that's the same verbiage that the sheriff used as well, for the most part. I've also received an important phone call from a fire chief in this county. He's the Green Acres fire chief, and I don't know him very well, but he was kind enough to reach out to me proactively, and he said, listen, you need to know that whether it's an ambulance company or it's a hospital, there's a profit motive, and I don't begrudge that one bit. That's the system that our country's based upon. But he goes, I want you to know my personal experiences because I'm going to ask you not to support an additional COPCN. And he started to tell me about how he heard from his paramedics, particularly from JFK main campus in Atlantis, who they service, that they would call 911 instead of calling AMR. And he showed me CAD reports. I've literally reviewed probably 30, 40, 50 calls in a short time period where the dispatcher's noting the point that AMR was never called and that ALS or BLS service was requested when not necessary. They've also noted, his men and women in uniform, that when they arrive to the hospital, that AMR is always there before they arrive, and that more often than not, the complaints from the guys and gals on duty were that the patients were never ready. Now, we've seen finger pointing back and forth, and we know that's going to go on, but he's a neutral arbiter, and that was his point, is that please do not mess up a system that is working. There is room for improvement between AMR and medics to work more closely, which what seems like to be particularly HCA hospitals. I think that we ought to take the lead in helping facilitate that dialogue so there's more awareness and more education on how These service providers are called or summoned by the hospitals. But MCT said the customer here is the hospital, and really the customer is our constituent. And before I'm willing to affix my name to a particular certificate, I need to know that, A, the system is broken, and I don't think that it is. I think we have a very well-resourced company supporting our men and women in uniform and supporting the constituents of this county, and that is AMR Medics. I don't begrudge them for being a billion-dollar organization. I thank them for the service that they've provided to this county. And in the context of public safety, this board tries to affect the cost of housing in this county. We try to affect small business growth and prop them up the best we can. But when it comes to public safety, that's why the COPCN is here. And I don't think we should get into the business of experimenting with that system and adding new providers so that that company can grow to meet other needs in the state or even here. I think we ought to tread very cautiously in experimenting with a system that isn't broken and in fact is working very well. And it does come down to a very narrow issue for me in that I've heard some comments today about Miami-Dade and Broward having a central point of contact or dispatching system that doesn't exist in this county. But what I'm afraid of that's going to happen here is that if we introduce a third provider, especially when their ability to serve this county is so minute, that we're going to have hospitals just calling all the ambulance companies and seeing who shows up first. And I've experienced that as a public safety professional in my capacity as a police officer. And I rely heavily upon the comments and wishes of the men and women that serve this community in uniform and who know better than a hospital CEO or a regional manager of a private ambulance company. I rely on the comments of the chiefs of fire rescue divisions in this county, whether it's the county chief or in my district, the only fire rescue that's not county, I think, is Green Acres, and I think that's why Chief Fuller was so motivated to speak with me, because he's the one representative sample that's been working with HCA and JFK main campus. I can't comment on the other hospitals. So what I'd like to see going forward is some professional and policy-making review of what we can do better in this county with our ordinance, what we can do better to help facilitate the relationships and the operations and policies and procedures of how these hospitals request and interact with the two ambulance providers. I'm certainly in support of the healthcare district's secondary COPCN. But as we sit here right now, I don't think the burden has been met, and I would like to see the administrator's initial recommendation be adopted by this board. And I'll now open it up to other comments by members of the board. Vice Mayor Weinroth, you recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, I'm inclined to agree with you. We have certainly heard a great deal about how this relationship has inured to the benefit of our residents, especially during a pandemic. The steps that were taken to support the efforts that we were making, and I applaud what they were doing as far as supporting our effort with the emergency. I'm looking at the commitment that MCT is willing to make, and again, 12 units is a modest change, but I think that it adds more problems than really solving problems, because again, like you're saying, because we don't have a unified dispatch system, now we're winding up with different opportunities to be making assignments, and like you said, and several of us have said up here, you're going to have the potential of a provider calling multiple dispatchers, and whoever shows up first, that's going to be the one that's going to move the patient. I don't think that's effective, and I would like to see, like you said, some administrative oversight over this process a little bit tighter than we've had before. And if the hospitals feel that they are not receiving the kind of service they need, that we're going to put the responsibility on them to document even if we don't have the regulatory authority over them, certainly if they are going to make a case for saying the system is not satisfying our needs, they're going to have to step up with documentation that's going to demonstrate the failings. I haven't heard that here today. I have heard pre-pandemic that this was a system that was working effectively, and notwithstanding a lot of the conversations have gone back and forth today, I am in agreement that the county is being well served by the system that's in place, with the addition of the healthcare district now being added in, and with the acknowledgement that we don't know what's going to happen because of the new House bill, and that is going to make a change and add providers into this. And again, we're not sure what the numbers are going to be going forward. We know our county is growing, but we also know virtual medicine, telemedicine, alternate opportunities to get care are there. Whether that's going to impact the transfer of patients from one facility to another, I don't know. We have all agreed that statistics here have been not the best. As we looked at the numbers here today, we were dealing with different populations of data because, again, the pandemic has disrupted a lot of what was going on in the last 18 months. But I think from where I sit here today, I have not heard an argument to change what is going on. I have heard certainly a strong argument to let the healthcare district service this defined population, and I think that that's the appropriate way to go. And I think that I'm going to follow the mayor's lead, and in fact, I will make a motion to approve the report, the prior report, which would have been to approve AMR, Healthcare District, Palm Beach County, and medics.
Very good. A motion's been made by Vice Mayor Weinroth to adopt the administrator's initial report as detailed in his comments. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Weiss. We'll move now further into comments. Commissioner McKinley, you're recognized.
Thank you, and thank you, Vice Mayor, for making that motion. Just perhaps some staff direction, because I don't want to muddy the waters with the motion that's on the floor right now. But there are 4 things that I'd like staff to look into. The first one is some sort of formalized way to collect data and to be able to audit that data. And I think that's probably an issue you need to take back to the EMS Council and massage that issue there and see how we can move forward. Number 2 would be a process for complaints. Requiring AMR to kind of collect that complaint data is, they're policing themselves. And so no different than some of the other consumer services types of complaint processes we have in some of your departments, Stephanie. I think that we need to make sure, and if it's already in place, please forgive me, but a formalized way to issue complaints. Number 3 is protocols. I hold sacred some of those complaints that came from our emergency room directors, and I see them as, also boots on the ground and experiencing this hands-on, much like the men and women who are sitting in our audience in uniform today. So I do think that we need to look at that, and I think that's something that the medical directors for our fire agencies and our hospitals need to take a look at. And then the fourth one, and Ms. Baker, I don't know how we do this, but I would like to see the possibility to waive the rules in that 6-year requirement based on the information that I heard today. And that information, the number of hospitals and ALFs and CLFs that are due to come online in the coming years, the population migration. Interestingly enough, 42% of the people who are moving out of the state of New York are coming to Palm Beach County, and they're staying here. So we're seeing that population migration, and we're also about to see data released based on the U.S. Census. And so we don't quite know what our population is in the county at this time. But if those population increases and if those facility increases warrant a review before the expiration of 6 years, I want the ability to review that. And I think if we have a formalized process in place to collect the data, to audit the data, to review formal complaints, and to look at population and facility increases, it may necessitate us taking a look at this a year, 18 months, 2 years down the road, and we may have to adjust the service providers that we have in this county, and I want to be able to have the flexibility to do that.
Thank you, Commissioner McKinley. And certainly that would require, I believe, a legislative change of the ordinance at some point. And I think the board is probably in agreement that we would like to be able to evaluate that at some point in the future about our ability to amend this. But we certainly want to give anyone that's awarded a COPCN some stability in knowing what their duties are to this county. So we'll certainly include anyone else that is involved in the COPCN process. But you'll look into that and bring it back to us. Very good. Any?
Let me recommend if you want that to be something that you're going to look at in your review, that you should make that provision of the COP center.
Ma'am, I'm
Yeah,
going to need you
the
to turn
clerk
your
can't hear
microphone
you.
on.
Pull your mic closer, please.
Yeah, and pull the mic a little bit closer as well.
Is it on now?
Yes, ma'am.
I was just going to recommend, if you want the ability to look at it a year or two from now, that you make that part of the conditions of the COPCN that you're approving today.
Could it just be a general reference to, I mean, how the mayor has or the vice mayor has a motion pending, how would we embrace that?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to, I just think that what we should do is make if the vice mayor would take a substitute motion, which to make it for, let's say, for 3 years, and instead of doing it can we do it for 3 years?
The ordinance is written specifically for 6 years, but I think that you can put limitations and conditions on the COPCN. So I think it would be 6 years with the ability to review it in however many years based on a performance review, or that it could be revoked earlier if you look at it and determine that there's an issue or performance review. And they can always be revoked if there's like substantial violations of the ordinance. There's always that ability to bring back on an individual basis if there's a problem with the specific provider.
So is it possible to do a review within 3 years? Mr. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I don't want to saddle our next board with having to go through this whole process all over.
But you'll be here.
I'm hoping to maybe be here. So,
I'm hoping to not be.
So, I mean, I guess I'm going to look to our lawyers now. What can we do to make this motion give the maximum flexibility to our successor board to be able to look at this statistically, and if there is Madam Administrator, I know that you are reticent to make this anything less than 6 years.
I'm going to ask for advice from legal. The board, can the board give us direction to bring the ordinance back or bring back recommendations to change the ordinance, which I think we've got some things we need to tighten up. Can we bring the ordinance back before the 6 years is up?
I mean, you can certainly do that, but I think it's a lot cleaner if you make that part of your COPCN approval, that it's for the 6 years with the condition that you have the authority to bring it back to review the continuing need for it and to make adjustments to revoke or to terminate early should there be the need for that based on the services.
I'm not necessarily, I'm not referring to the provider for COPCN. I'm simply referring to the ordinance itself, because there are issues that the board has brought up, we have discussed, we have identified during this process that needs to be changed, and we should not wait for 6 months to change it. 6 years. If we could make modifications going through the right entities to make recommendations to this board and bring those back so that we can change the ordinance sooner rather than later, because a lot of this information that we're going to need to work with the recipient and other groups as well as get input from the board. And we would need to make that change, I think, before 6 years are up, or before
yeah.
this group decides.
I don't want to make
modifying.
something retroactive, and I think.
No, we're not going to make it retroactive. What I plan on doing, because we've identified some of this, is going forward. It's up to this board if you want the existing entity to move forward for the next 6 years under what you adopt today. But I don't want to wait until, year 5 to make these changes. We need these changes in order to assist in collecting the data that you have readily identified and accurately that we need to put measures in place.
I think, and again, to Commissioner Bernard's remarks, I think rather than just having a date certain that it's going to be 3 years, I'd rather keep it 6 years, but give the latitude to the board in 3 years to be able to evaluate based upon criteria that's going to be established by Stephanie as far as what has happened in this interim period, and so that it doesn't have to be left for 6 years.
Can I clarify
Well,
my comments?
let me just interject and just keep some order. So you're suggesting that he can make that as part of the condition of the COPCN being issued today?
Yes.
With that language that you just gave us, and then we would have some legislative changes and some data collection and things of that nature, and we would still have the ability to come back if needed as a board to accommodate the concerns of Commissioner McKinley and the rest of this board, quite frankly. Commissioner McKinley, you're recognized.
Yeah, my intent was to run these parallel. We're going to approve a 6-year COPCN to the 3 providers that are already in the motion. In parallel, we're going to review the operating ordinance and collect the information. And if staff sees a need to make recommended changes, then they can bring that back to us. But I don't want the 3 providers we're going to choose today to walk out of here thinking they are going to be terminated in 24 months.
Me
I mean,
neither.
if you screw up, you're going to be terminated. But these need to be parallel operations.
I'm in total agreement with the parallel structure that you've presented. Does the county attorney's office agree with the?
I think that that's okay, as long as you're not, intending to look at it and then revise their COPCN in 2 years. If you wanted to do that, I think you should put a condition on it. If you want the COPCN to continue to be 6 years, but you can bring it back, of course, if there's violations or issues that they're not in compliance with the ordinance, then you could come back and look at a revocation at that point.
It's just confusing me even more.
Is that language necessary, or is that already assumed? I mean, if they're in violation of the COPCN, then I assume it still can come back.
That's correct. That is assumed. I mean, that's in the ordinance. The only thing it would be if you want the ability to terminate it early for other reasons, because there's a different need, or you want to revise how how it operates, or looking at a different scheme, then you would want to put that condition in, so you have that ability to go in early.
It's hard to prospectively contemplate what's going to come back and what this county needs in terms of legislative changes and policy changes. So
I'm going to stick with my original motion, Mayor, and unless Commissioner Bernard wants to substitute, I'm going to stick with my original motion.
okay. Well, then yes, you're recognized, Mr. Bonlaren.
Just one, so you're aware on the motion. Per the ordinance for this item, as you approve the providers that you'd like to approve, you can do that as drafted. You must also deny the applications that come in as well, and you have to have motions that deny those based on reason. So, for example, here where you're denying Century Ambulance in this particular in B, based on evaluation of countywide EMS service, the applications and the data and information collected. Likewise, if one of the 3 or 4 that's recommended for approval, you're also seeking to deny, you must include that in a motion to deny for a specific reason as well. So
That could be done in a separate motion,
It
I
can be
assume.
done in a separate
Okay.
motion, but I just want to clarify that must be done per the ordinance.
Well, we do have a motion pending and seconded for the 6 years. It's my internal belief that we have the ability to move forward legislative changes in the interim, whether it's made as part of his motion or not. But right now, we have a county ordinance in place, and we would have to change that to accommodate any future legislative changes. All right, so the motion has been made and seconded. Commissioner Marino, you're recognized. Oh,
Thank you. So just to clarify. We want to revisit this I'm making it in simple terms. We want to have the ability to revisit this. And it wouldn't be because AMR was doing anything wrong. Correct. It would be because maybe in 2 or 3 years, we feel that there is the need for an additional provider. Do we have the ability to do that?
That, I believe, yes, you can. You can revise your ordinance at that point and have like a secondary application process, wherever you want to handle it. You could add additional providers if there's a need for it. You'd have to amend the ordinance to allow for that, but that you could do.
Because right now, what we have in front of us is we're going to vote for 6 years. We have data that is all over the board. We have hospitals saying that they want an additional provider. I have a fire chief that says, yes, we would like an additional provider. So I know that the sentiment of the board is to not have any change. I'm in the position that competition makes everybody better. But we also have with House Bill 805, we have another challenge coming up. So for us to make a 6-year decision here, I think we need to give ourselves the ability to revisit this in 2 or 3 years and see if what we have done today is the right move, or if in 2 or 3 years, and I'll be here, Bob will be here. Oh, maybe he'll be here, possibly. Melissa, who voted on this 6 years ago, will not be. Mayor Kerner will be here. So it just gives us the ability to revisit this if, for some reason, in the next 2 or 3 years, with our population growth, with the growth of hospitals, with the growth of ALFs and ALFs in our community, we need to not tie our hands. We need to be able to revisit this in the future. I would be in favor of that.
And that point is certainly clear, but I think from my perspective, to accommodate that, we want better data and we want to make some legislative changes to the ordinance. And when that time comes, then we'll be ready to act on that tangent of this larger issue. And the motion that has been made and seconded is still pending. So further in the comments, Commissioner Bernard, and then we'll get to Commissioner Sacks.
Can I just add one more thing?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. We won't have, hopefully, knocking on wood here, we will have the ability to get data when COVID is not present. So we can go back to getting more reliable data. So that would also help us in the future.
Well, I missed that term. When what's not present? COVID. Okay.
That thing that has thrown us into a tizzy. So, collecting data during COVID is not beneficial to anybody. So,
true. Very fair point. Commissioner Bernard, then Commissioner Sacks.
Just a question for the attorneys. If we approve it as is with the 6 years, are we able to, let's say we decide we want to go a different route in 3 years, are we able to make any changes if we approve it as a 6-year without the language to be able to revisit, let's say, in 3 years?
I mean, I wouldn't suggest it. I think the ordinance requires or says it's 6 years. So if you want to revisit these current providers, I would put a condition on there. You're allowed to put any conditions or limitations that you feel are in the public safety need. So if you can just put a general condition subject to review of the continuing need in however much time you want. I think you can do that. I think you can condition it like that. But I think by default, it's 6 years under the ordinance.
Okay.
But I think you can always come back, like you said, and amend the ordinance to add additional providers.
Right.
So, Mr. Mayor, I'd make a substitute motion.
We recognize on the substitute motion, sir.
The substitute motion, which is to approve the following secondary service provider, emergency medical services, EMS, certificate of public, COPCN, for the period of July 1st through 2021 through June 30th, 2027, to the 3 providers, which is AMR, Medics, and the Healthcare District of Palm Beach County. So that would be for 6 years with the condition of being able to revisit it in 3 years.
That motion's been made, and is there a second to that motion? Seconded by Commissioner Marino. Just so you know where I stand, I'm not, and I may not be here depending on when that 3-year mark comes, but I would like to see changes to the data collection process before I'm willing to embrace adding more COPCN holders. I don't think that's, I think we need to tackle that. I think this condition is fine, but we need to tackle our internal stuff first. And then depending on the need and the data that comes back, the board, whoever it may be, can analyze it then. So, Madam County Attorney, do you believe that that condition is appropriate as described by Commissioner Bernard?
Yes, I think that's okay. In the public health safety, whatever you're going to look at that point, I think that's appropriate to revisit based on whatever the needs are you want to look at that time.
Very good.
Yes.
All right, so that motion's been made and seconded and now substitutes Vice Mayor Weinroth's motion. Commissioner McKinley, you're recognized.
I just asked the maker of the motion, you said in 3 years, if we could make that within 3 years.
Within 3 years.
And Commissioner Moreno, you still second that motion? Just so we're clear, we don't need to give our fire rescue chief a COPCN today, correct? All right, good.
Can I clarify, is that the discretion to come back within 3 years, or so then you would have the option to, or, okay.
That's what you were trying to embrace, the discretion to. All right, so we have a clarity on the motion and the second, and further into comments. Commissioner Sachs, did you have further comments, sir? Commissioner Sachs, you're recognized in comments.
Thank you so much, Mayor and Vice Mayor and my colleagues for allowing me to participate in this discussion. It has been one of the most informative, maybe because I haven't spoken. It's been so good. I have rarely seen in my professional life such an informative and open debate on a very, very important issue to all the people of Palm Beach County. And my comments are basically very brief, and let me just say this. It's yes, it is about business, but it's also, really, we can't judge this as being compelled by market forces. I think it is about public safety. And so I rely on our public safety professionals, which is the fire chief, fire rescue, and the sheriff, as well as our professional staff. However, I really applaud the idea of a revisit of this within 3 years. And I think it's an excellent suggestion by those, by my colleagues, because one, we do have HB 805, which will become law and which will certainly play its part, very important part in our discussions. And two, the data information getting that will be provided by those who will be giving us the data survey is going to be very important. It will be much more advanced than that which we have received today. And three, population is growing. They say 1,000 people are coming into Florida every day, and I like to look at it, and many of them are coming right here to Palm Beach County. So we need to be able to expand, or at least to review an expansion of our public safety ambulances at that time. So, and it may be that that we will need to expand into other providers. So with that, I totally agree with what the discussion has been to support our professional staff's opinion and to go along with that, and that's how I look at it. And thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner Sachs. I don't see any other lights, so what I'm going to do, just in the interest of clarity, is a roll call vote. Starting, the motion is properly on the floor, and we'll do a roll call vote starting with District 1. Commissioner Moreno.
I am voting in favor of the motion made.
Very good. District 2, Commissioner Weiss.
Yes.
District 3, me, yes. District 4, Vice Mayor Weinroth.
Yes.
District 5, Commissioner Sachs.
Yes.
And last but not least, District 7, Commissioner.
What about 6?
Oh, whoa.
I know
I
I've
even had
done
it
this
written down.
before, and hopefully you'll get the pleasure of it too.
Second to last but not least, Commissioner Melissa McKinley.
Yes, on the substitute motion.
I'm sure I've given you a lot of confidence in our decision-making process now that I can't count to 7. District 7, Commissioner Bernard.
Yes.
Very good. On this motion, I'll just, now that it's passed 7-0 and unanimous, as the chair that has to sort of act as an air traffic controller. I'm delighted that we were able to reach a unanimous consensus on such an important public issue. We do have some more motions to take up, but I'm delighted at the final product of this, and obviously you all agree. So I'll recognize Vice Mayor Weinroth for motion.
Thank you. I'm going to make a motion to deny the secondary provider COPCN applications for All County Ambulance, Century Ambulance Services, Inc., National Health Transport, Inc., and Rapid Response Medical Transportation, Inc. And do I need to have specific reasons on each one of them?
Yeah, it may be best, Vice Mayor, if I may, to read the motions for B and C as they are drafted with the reasons that are included in there, and then take MCT separate, since it's not based on recommendations of the EMS Advisory Council, and motion to deny that based on either an evaluation of the system, the existing system, or a lack of information that you need to make that decision to move forward with that.
Very good. And just for clarity, Vice Mayor, MCT was not included in this present motion to deny, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And you want to read that in and we'll get a second?
All right. Recommend denial of the 3 secondary provider COPCN applications for Century Ambulance, National Health Transport, and Rapid Response based upon the recommendation of the EMS Council with respect to the denial of those 3 applications. You want me to read this whole thing? Which one? That's B? Okay. All right. You want me to do C first? I'll do C first, then come back to B?
Or just, I would start with B, read that cleanly through that. C,
right.
read that cleanly through that, and then we'll do a D for MCT with a
Okay, Madam
different
Clerk,
evaluation.
here we go again. Deny the following secondary service provider, EMS COPCN, for the period July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2027, based on an evaluation of the countywide EMS services, the applications, and data and information collected, and the recommendations of the EMS Advisory Council as to Century Ambulance Services, Inc.
A second by Commissioner Marino. We have all except for MCT in this motion. Should there be further comments read into the record?
No, we're breaking them out.
You need to read C into the record as well on the denial for that as well.
You want those separate, or do you want them?
Fine, same motion.
Same motion. And to deny the following secondary service provider EMS COPCNs for the period July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2027, based on evaluation of countywide EMS services, the applications and data and information collected, recommendation of the EMS Advisory Council, and the EMS ordinance application requirements were not met, and that would be for National Health Transport, Rapid Response Medical Transport, and MCT Express. No, we're not going to put that one in here.
Another motion.
All right, we'll keep that one out of here. All right, so just
Very good.
to National Health Transport and Rapid Response Medical Transport.
The motion's been made by Vice Mayor Weinroth, seconded by Commissioner Marino, and a proper foundation has been laid for denial for those that were not moved forward by the EMS Council. All in favor of the denial? All opposed? That passes 7-0. You recognize for another motion.
Deny the following secondary service provider EMS COPCN for the period July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2027, based on evaluation of the countywide EMS services and lack of information as to MCT Express, Inc., doing business as All County Ambulance.
Very good. A motion's been made by Vice Mayor Weinroth to deny MCT a COPCN with that proper foundation. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Weiss. I'll just buttress the foundation by saying I appreciated their comments and their application, and despite the EMS recommendation, the council to move forward, we've considered it. I didn't find that our burden to act legislatively was met. I have concerns about the size and impact and import of their company, and in light of all the other evidence that's been submitted by members of this community and fire rescue agencies and law enforcement. A motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? All opposed? The license is denied 7-0. Well, is there any other business related to this agenda item we can take up today? I suggest a 5-minute break. Well, let me talk to my colleagues. We want to keep going through this. You want to do 15 minutes? We'll take a 15-minute break. Commissioner McKinley, you want less?
We have an awful lot of people in the lobby that have been waiting since 9:30 in the morning that haven't eaten lunch yet. I think that we should just plow through it.
Let's do 5. Let's do 10. Shoot for 5, and I'll see you all back in 7 minutes. We're in recess. Quorum here, slowly but surely. At which time we will be taking up agenda item 4B1, Public Hearing, Commission on Ethics. And I'm ethically bound to apologize to you for the delay, sir.
Found it very enlightening.
Yeah, that's one word.
It's
All
my
right.
tax money too, so I'm always interested.
Welcome back to the June 15th, 2021 Board of County Commissioners meeting for Palm Beach County. I'd like to call this meeting back to order. And we are presently on agenda item 4B1 in a public hearing on Commission on Ethics. The Inspector General?
Nope.
The Director of Commission on Ethics is recognized along with the Assistant County Administrator Todd Von Lehren.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. Before you are 3 ordinances from recommended changes to different ones that are overseen by the Commission on Ethics in the county. We have a very brief presentation, about 1 to 2 slides per item, and if possible, we'll give that 1 or 2 slides. We'll take a briefing there to vote on each of those going through the entire presentation to make it easier and flow. Mark Bannon is our Executive Director of the Commission on Ethics. I'll recognize him to introduce his team, and Howard is also up here with us from the County Attorney's Office, and then he'll proceed with some of the brief presentations.
Thank you, Mr. Von Lehren. With me today is our General Counsel, Christy Kelly, who is actually the lead on this, although it's been 2 years in getting it done because of COVID. She's the one who brought this to fruition with a lot of other people's help. So with that in mind, let me go to the first slide. These proposed changes are the most significant changes we've made to the Commission on Ethics ordinances, or the ethics ordinances, since 2011. They were very significant back then because it brought the municipalities under our jurisdiction, so it brought a whole new set of people. But since that time, we've had one small change in 2015, but basically for the most part of the 11 years we've been around, these ordinances have remained pretty much the same. The purpose of the changes, and we've gone over, fortunately, thank you all for meeting with us earlier to discuss these things one-on-one, are really twofold. We want to make these ordinances easier to both understand and follow, and that's what we've been trying to do. And we want to address some of the unintended consequences, some were addressed in 2011, but a few others, of these ordinances. In other words, we don't want to usurp the power from either county commission, the administration, or of the city administration in dealing with employees, but we want everybody to understand what the rules are. So with that in mind, let's go to the first ordinance that we have changes at, which is the Palm Beach County Code of Ethics. The first change was...
very quickly, I apologize. Commissioner Marino, you're recognized.
Has anything changed since your first presentation?
No.
Does the board feel like we need another presentation?
I don't think so, but I don't want to get in trouble with the ethics guy.
we can save.
It's absolutely up to you. I know you've been sitting there for a long time.
We can save you the time. I just, you know, we could save you the time. If nothing has changed since the first reading, and we voted to adopt it back then, I'm sure we can make that same motion today.
Are you making a motion?
So I will make a motion, 4B1, to adopt an ordinance of the Board of County Commissioners amending Chapter 2, Article 13, the Palm Beach County Code of Ethics.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Marino, seconded by Vice Mayor Weinroth on 4B1. There's no public comment. All in favor? All opposed? That item passes 7-0. We're now on 4B2.
May I make a motion that we adopt B2, an ordinance of the Palm Beach Board of County Commissioners amending Chapter 2, Article 5, Division 8 of the Palm Beach County Code, the Palm Beach County Commission on Ethics Ordinance as amended, amending Section 2-255. Do I have to read this whole thing?
No. As published. Commissioner Marino has made a motion on 4B2 as published, seconded by Vice Mayor Weinroth. There's no public comment. All in favor? All opposed? 4B2 passes 7-0.
Okay, may I make a motion 4B3 to adopt an ordinance of the Board of County Commission of Palm Beach County, Florida, amending Chapter 2, Article 8 of the Palm Beach County Code.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Marino on 4B3, seconded by Vice Mayor Weinroth. Was there any change in the on the add-on on this one? So the motion is as published?
As published, it's published.
Very good. No comments by members of the board or public comment. All in favor? All opposed? That item passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. If I might take 1 minute of your time,
Please.
Commissioners, I know you had a long day. I want to thank, first of all, the commission itself, Palm Beach County Commission, for all the support, and the various municipal councils and commissions who have always supported us, and we appreciate that very much. I'd like to thank the members of the Palm Beach County Commission on Ethics who have done a lot of work on this, my staff, and in particular, my staff that's with me, Ms. Kelly, and the review committee that did this on their own to review things before they were presented to you. I want to thank County Administrator Virginia Baker and Assistant County Administrator Todd Bonlaran, who we've worked with on the administrative sections within this code, County Attorney Denise Neiman, Deputy County Attorney Denise Kaufman, Chief Assistant County Attorney Howard Falcon, and former Chief Assistant Lenny Berger, who we all miss, the ethics guy as we called him, the Oracle. And finally, the Palm Beach County League of Cities and their Executive Director Richard Radcliffe, Counsel Keith Davis, and former Counsel Jennifer Ashton, all of which were instrumental in getting this done. And thank all of you again for taking care of this.
Thank you. And on behalf of the board, we realize that the commissioners on the Commission on Ethics hold important public office with a lot of jurisdictional responsibility. They serve, I believe, in a volunteer capacity.
They absolutely do.
Which certainly doesn't take away from the immense duties that they have in such a large county. We appreciate their service on behalf of the board and the rest of the team.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that moves us to continued public hearings on 4C1, Environmental Resources Management. And I assume we have some public comment on this? Very good. So the agenda item is about to begin on 4C1. If you have not submitted a comment card and would like to make comments, please submit one quickly to the member of county staff.
Mayor, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Have a second? This is your public hearing adopting our flooding structure ordinance. With you, Deb Drum, Director, Jenna McNeil, Program Supervisor for ERM, Mike Stahl, Deputy Director, Scottsdale County Attorney's Office. Now I'll ask Mike to run you through any modifications since permission to advertise and walk through some comments we received yesterday afternoon from Marine Industries. And with that, I'll ask Mike to proceed.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, Administrator Baker. As Mr. Rudder mentioned, we are proud to bring back to you for public hearing proposed amendment to the Cindy DiFilippo floating structure ordinance. Just to recap real quick, the original ordinance was adopted in August 2015. There were some limitations in the enforcement ability of that. So due to some ongoing issues, there was a regional interest in trying to improve the enforceability of that ordinance. We, over the last 18 months, through coordination with a lot of local stakeholders and the development, we went through the process of developing this amendment. We brought that before you for preliminary reading on May 18th, 2021. And the notice of public hearing was published on May 31st, 2021. Since the preliminary hearing, we did make some minor edits to the proposed ordinance as a result of some late stakeholder comments. Most of the edits were all minor in nature and unsubstantial in terms of the intent of the ordinance. They were there for clarification and consistency, and these are available for you to see on attachment 2 under the red line version. The primary edit was that we extended the notification period from 14 days to 21 days prior to the removal of a structure that is not compliant with the ordinance. And the reason for that was that we wanted to increase the time to allow sufficient time for owners to make necessary arrangements to remove the structure and or to allow sufficient time for the enforcing entity to make all reasonable efforts to contact the owner prior to removal So as you may recall from the original presentation, floating structures, they are not considered vessels. They are not registered with the state. So sometimes it can be very difficult to track down ownership of a structure. So one of the other issues that we received in the late stakeholder comment was related to the marine construction industry's ability to stage, park, or store equipment on the water between projects. This was due to limited working waterfront in Palm Beach County, so often marine contractors will store or park this equipment on barges just outside of the navigational channels, which is not part of an active construction project. This practice is not regulated like industrial storage on dry land, and it typically occurs over sensitive seagrass habitat. The Florida statute definition of a floating structure includes, but is not limited to, a storage or parking facility, a mining platform, dredge, dragline, or similar facility. The proposed amendment does exempt structures associated with a permitted construction project, and when this equipment is not associated with a permitted project, they would be granted the 21-day notification period prior to removal. We did receive a follow-up letter from the Marine Industries Association yesterday. We have been assessing those comments since we received that letter. There were 3 key requests made by the industry. One was to clarify that the 14 attributes to identify a floating structure, it should be more clearly stated that those are attributes associated with a floating structure. We believe it's apparent in the language that it is associated with a structure, but we do agree that it's better to be explicit and are supportive of adding this clarification if it's the board's motion to move forward with adoption with that edit. The second request was to establish an exemption for licensed marine contractors for 30 days after completion of a permitted construction project or permitted construction activities. So we believe that the 21-day period provides sufficient time between permitted construction projects. And one of the first steps that we took when we were developing this ordinance was to look at other ordinances in place around the state. And we found that those ordinances, or at least one of those ordinances, they allow 10 days within a 30-day period within an 8-mile radius of inactivity. At that point, it is considered not in use and it falls under their ordinance. The other issue with extending that period specifically for licensed marine contractors is that when you start making exemptions for one commercial interest, it's difficult to do that without consistently applying that to other commercial interests or all structures that fall underneath the ordinance. So it creates a complication when it comes to enforcement. The third request was a request to expand the exemption to construction activities that are exempt from permitting. So in this case, it would be some sort of minor repair to a dock or something to that effect. We believe that the request of just extending it to exempt construction activities is a little bit broad. It would be very difficult to enforce within the commercial industry. So our recommendation is that we would like to move forward with the proposed amendment as drafted. We work very closely with the marine construction industry within our own programs, so we have a pretty good ear to what's happening in the industry. We will continue to monitor this, and if it has any unintended hardships to the industry, then we would be bringing back a future amendment to address those issues.
Very good. We'll go now to questions. Commissioner Bernard, you're recognized.
Just a quick question. You had mentioned one of them was to clarify the 14 attributes. Are you still, are you okay with that?
Yes, sir. So the 4 attributes are identified in the ordinance. So what they're asking is to insert a few words at the beginning to say that, these particular attributes are associated with floating structures.
Okay. So
it's just that clarification.
So we can make, you're okay with us?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then the other 2, you would just work with the industry if there's any issues that props up later on or something like that. Is that
Yes, sir.
correct?
Our recommendation is to move forward without the other two
Okay.
requests, and then we will continue to work with the industry.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner Bernard. Commissioner Marino, then to Commissioner Weiss.
Hopefully, I'm not going out of order, but I would like to make a motion to staff recommendation to make a motion on the passing of this ordinance.
Very good. Commissioner Marino has made a motion to move agenda item 4C1 as published forward. And seconded by Vice Mayor Weinroth. We do have public comment, and we'll take that comment in the context of the motion pending, but let me get to Commissioner Weiss. You're recognized.
Thank you. Would there be, or can we, I don't know if you need to be given direction to have a process so that if something, as you're looking for these unintended consequences, I assume you'll have a mechanism for them, but do we need to give you direction to create a mechanism for people who believe that this is not being applied, or there's things that fall outside of what was contemplated, that there's a way for them to get in touch with you all? Because these are going to be done by different localities potentially are going to be enforcing it. And if there's an issue, is ERM going to be the clearinghouse of that?
Sure, Commissioner, for the record, Deborah Drum, Department Director for ERM. We will continue to be in communication with all stakeholders. I think with any new policy or ordinance, as it gets implemented, it's our duty to ensure that it is being implemented in a way that was intended. And so we will keep close communication with the industries through the Marine Industries Association and any other stakeholder that thinks that they might be impacted by this. And we will bring any concerns back to the board, either through a board memo or through an update as the county administrator directs. But we will certainly be keeping the county administrator abreast of any unintended consequences. We're really trying to protect resources. That's the purpose of this. If we see other things happening, we will certainly bring that back to the board. You have our commitment.
Okay, thank you.
All right, very good. I don't see any other questions by members of the board, so we'll move now to public comment.
The first one will be Mr. Michael Kennedy, and then Elisa Freeman. She does not wish to speak, but she states that she would like to allow the 30-day buffer for marine construction dredge business.
All right, sir, you're recognized, and thank you for your patience today.
Glad to be here. Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be here today. First of all, I'd like to thank the staff for working with us on this. I understood they accepted our first recommendation regarding clarifying. Reason we made that recommendation was to make sure this ordinance would be enforceable. We looked at it and thought it would be very helpful for us to put that language in there. You have it covered in the preamble on page 2 where you talked about Lozman, and on page 3 when you talk about your own findings. Nicely drafted. We just wanted to add one more nail to make sure you all could enforce this ordinance. We see the problem. We do have a bit of a disagreement with regard to our marine contractors and their staging. So our concern is if someone shows up to a job a few days early and either weather or something prevents them to do it, that's why we ask for a grace period. If there could be a minor grace period, 30 days might be too long, 10 days. Other counties do use 10 days. It works pretty well. And our concern is sometimes these contractors, when they do serial jobs, they jump from one job to another, rather than removing the equipment, which probably is going to be done at a boat ramp or similar facility. If they can leave it in the water for a very short period of time, it does two things. Number one, it helps their efficiency, and it also helps the government entities or the private people who are going out there and having to pay for that mobilization and demobilization. We'll continue to work with Director Dunn. She's been very accommodating to us on this issue, and we appreciate the county attorney's office jumping on this. So I appreciate your consideration. We'd like to have that little grace period for our contractors, and we are concerned about the exempt permits. They'd be small. We see other issues that we all can work together on to get the waterways cleaned up, and we look forward to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Any further comments by members of the board or questions? Mr. Rudder, you recognize, sir.
Mayor, could I ask if you'd give Mike an opportunity to read into the record the change that we were comfortable with, and for the maker and the seconder to contemplate those words to make sure we're clear on the
Absolutely.
record with that modification?
Okay, so on page 5, line 21, determined under a preponderance of the evidence standard, and then the new language added, by analyzing the following criteria, which are the attributes of a floating structure.
Very good. Are there any other pieces of the amendment that need to be read into the record?
That is it.
All right. Well, then we will vote. All in favor? All opposed? That item passes 7-0. Thank you very much to the entire team for your work on this, and to Marine Industries Association for their participation. I'm going to recognize Commissioner Weiss and then Commissioner Marino.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make sure that on item 4A1 that we read into, or we put into the record, the letter associated from
The last letter, Cobra letter, that wasn't part of the original composite.
4A1.
4A1, without objection from any members of the board, that will be turned over to the clerk. All right, Commissioner Marino, you're recognized.
I just want to say thank you for supporting this. My phone has blown up the last couple days about this ordinance because a lot of this started up in the north end of the county, and I want to say an amen and a prayer to Cindy DiFilippo and thank her for all her work that got this ordinance going in the first place. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Marino. That will conclude the public hearings for today. We'll move now to agenda item 5A1, airports.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of item 5A1.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner McKinley on 5A1 as published, seconded by Vice Mayor Weinroth. There's no public comment on 5A1. There's no questions by members of the board. All in favor? All opposed? That item passes 7-0. We'll move now to 5A2.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve item 5A2.
Motion by Commissioner McKinley on 5A2 as published, seconded by Vice Mayor Weinroth. There's no public comment or comments by members of the board. All in favor? All opposed? You're cleared for takeoff. Oh, I mean, you passed it 7-0. We're still on the regular agenda on 5B1 regarding solicitation for professional services.
Are there comment cards on this?
No, sir.
Okay, then I'm going to move 5B1, A and B for approval.
The motion's made on 5B1, A and B as published by Vice Mayor Weinroth. Is there a second by Commissioner Weiss? No further comments. All in favor? All opposed? 5B1, A and B passes 7-0. We're now on 5B. What's that?
I'm against 5B1.
Oh, the public comments were on 5B1?
No, 5B1, I'm voting no.
You're voting no? Let the record reflect that it was 6-1 with Commissioner Bernard voting no. And so now we're on 5B2, which is regarding the redistricting. Yeah, okay. Will be public comments on this. You recognize Mr. Rudder. There's none?
Mayor, good afternoon again. Yes. Related to redistricting, wanted to seek the board's direction on the criteria we would be using to apply as we evaluate Census 2020 numbers and look at our redistricting efforts. Run really quickly through the bullet points. Almost there. And just to point out, the points here are the same criteria utilized in 2001 and 2011, so we're not recreating the wheel. In consultation with with Mr. Wilson, the consultant that we utilized, board just previous item approved his contract, same criteria he's familiar with, he's utilized, same criteria we've applied, comfortable, familiar with it. So running through these points really quickly, first one would be achieving population equity, and they're identified in the agenda item if the board wanted to follow along. So that would be looking for 10% or less variance among the district's population, and there we go. And then just quickly on background, again, Florida statute, chapter 124, sets forth our requirement for when we have to perform the redistricting work. And then I got second bullet there, just identifying that we're, again, not recreating the wheel, using the same criteria we've utilized the past two redistricting efforts. So on to those points, again, population equity, 10% or less variance. As we've had initial discussions with Mr. Wilson already, 10% is a very generous number in his mind. He wants 0. So that's
what the legislature used when I was in redistricting. It was 0.
And that will be our standard. We will work and endeavor to get it down to 0. Second bullet, adhering to Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, 1965, as amended. Third, following natural and man-made boundaries, maintaining the integrity of the communities of interest, ensuring compactness, the contiguity of districts, and then preserving the core of existing voter districts. So, some of it obviously blends into city boundaries, things of that nature, looking for those points when we have that final information, beginning to make those assessments and see where modifications may or may not need to be changed. We hope to, again, we've shared some information we've developed from previous American Community Survey information that shows our growth ranges from the lowest district had a increase of about 8%, I believe it was, and the district with the most growth, and I'm not remembering which ones exactly, but somewhere around 12 or 13. So all districts have seen significant growth, but we're really, we don't know what 2020 census is going to show. So we're very hesitant to stick our necks out too far until we've got that final bit of information. But these are the standards we're going to be working with. We'd be happy for the board to offer us any thoughts you might have on these points. Otherwise, give us a direction to proceed with that. And we look forward to getting the census release information in September again and hitting the road really fast with it when we get it.
Very good. Well, I certainly don't have any substantive comments on this item. We appreciate the data-driven process here and the apolitical process here. And any further comments by members of the board? Is there a motion? Or is there direction?
Move to direct according to the bullet points presented.
On 5B2?
On 5B2.
Is there a second? Motion made by Vice Mayor Weinroth and seconded by Commissioner Weiss on 5B2. No public comment. All in favor? All opposed? That item passes 7-0. We'll move now to agenda item 5B3. Thank you, sir. And this is relating to CareerSource.
Do we have any cards?
No. I do want to give...
you want to let him make a presentation? Okay.
We don't need a detailed presentation, but I do want to give an opportunity for... I guess the honeymoon's over at this point, but you're still the new CEO in my mind, and we're excited to have you here, and I wanted to make sure you had a platform to talk about the good work that you're doing.
And she sat here for the last 8 hours.
That's why she's not new anymore. And I'm sure there'll be a forthcoming motion to approve the budget, which is in essence about $16 million, I believe.
16 million.
16,955,437. But I do want to recognize you to make any comments related to your agency in general or the budget in general as well.
Well, I thank you very much, Mayor Kerner.
Push your button.
Thank you very much, Mayor Kerner, Commissioners, and Ms. Baker. The first thing I'd like to say is thank you for having us here today. I know it's been a long day for everybody, but I would like to acknowledge the hard work and the innovation of my staff at CareerSource. This past week, we were awarded the national award called the Trailblazers Award from the National Association of Workforce Boards, primarily for our hard work in pivoting during COVID and for many of the services that we do provide, especially in our disabilities department. So when Palm Beach County was going through its worst time last year, we actually stepped up to the plate and did some of our best work. So I'm really proud of our staff, and I'd like to acknowledge that today. But if you would like to know more about CareerSource, I have a lot to say, but I'll keep it really quick and brief. We provide a lot of services to our constituents here in Palm Beach County, primarily with reemployment services. With reemployment services, we provide all kinds of services to get people back to work, resume writing, their interviewing skills, researching companies, helping them attain jobs through their research. Our resource center has all the supplies for anybody to come into our centers or into our libraries. We've trained our libraries to provide the same services so that people can access employment and put them on a career pathway. We also have a professional placement network which takes professionals, people with degrees, up to C-suite and puts them through a branding course and gets them employed as well. And then finally, our business services. Our business services has industry-specific recruiters that assist not only the businesses to find job seekers, but if we can't find the particular jobs for our job seekers, we'll go out and find them for them. So all totaled, we've put 5,877 people to work during this program year. The three programs that I like the best, because they have a tremendous return on investment besides just employment, is our Veteran Services, our Ticket to Work or Disabilities program, and our reentry program. Our Veteran Services program helps those disabled veterans with significant barriers to employment or those transitioning out of the military to find employment, with also veteran staff helping them, so they know how to help each other. Our disabilities unit has specialized career placement assistance for career services, self-sufficiency program, as well as work incentive counseling. So those people who are on Social Security disability income learn how to financially handle their money, but also find employment so they eventually can come off their SSDI. And that's a great return on investment. Our reentry team assists those returning citizens or those currently incarcerated through career prep and career education so they can come into their work release program. We partner with Public Safety, the Lord's Place, Gulfstream Goodwill, and Revere Beach Justice Center. Now, our Veteran Services put 242 people back to work. Our Ticket to Work program or disabilities put 399 people back to work, and our reentry team, 116. When you think about 116 people coming out of incarceration, returning to work, reducing recidivism, and the fact that if they did commit another crime, they go back to jail, that's over $50,000 a year per person in jail. So that's a lot of money that we've contributed to our community through finding employment for them. So the return on investment with these three departments is truly amazing. Continuing on with our programs, we provide a lot of wraparound services or services with partner agencies. SNAP and Welfare Transition, or TANF, requires work activities in exchange for food stamp and food assistance. We provide the education, the training, and the job opportunities for them. We emphasize work and self-sufficiency over welfare. And with that, we have put 337 people to work this year. Why is that an important number? During this year, they didn't have to go back to work. That work requirement was waived. We still engage them, and we have the highest engagement in the state. Our youth and young adult program did get put on hold during COVID. We've re-engaged the youth through a hybrid model called Career Edge, which incorporates internet as well as classroom time. So career prep is working out. We have a class going on right now, and it's continuous now. It's not just once or twice a year. And we provide paid internships for these youth, on-the-job training, and educational resources. And 193 out-of-school youth have found employment this year. And our WIOA funds go to our scholarships. Anybody who doesn't have the right training that needs a job, we can upskill them through educational scholarships if they're eligible and suitable. We spent a record $3.2 million in educational scholarships this year. That is something we're very proud of. And she's still trying to breathe. This is Erica Scarpati, our CFO. We've spent all of her money this year. But we provide supportive services while they're in education so they can get child care, bus passes, anything that makes them successful in going to school and getting a job. So when we continue on, just to give you a quick picture of Palm Beach County and our employment rate is down to 4.7%. That is still less than national and state levels. So 4.7 is a good number, but we hope that it continues to go down. As people are re-engaging the workforce, we do expect a little blip up. The new numbers come out Friday, but I anticipate by the fall we'll be back down to 3 to 4% unemployment. We continue to monitor all of our monthly placements. We place at least 500 people a month into jobs, and we make sure that we look at who we serve through an equity lens. So male to female ratios, 45 to 55, and placements, as you can see, the ratios within the different denominations of demographics. And then finally, how are we measured? We were asked to show our performance metrics. We are measured in 4 separate categories: adult, dislocated worker, youth, and then finally Wagner-Peiser. Wagner-Peiser is a name for your typical job seekers. Within those measures, we have to look at employment in second and fourth quarter. In other words, when we get somebody a job, are they still employed second quarter and fourth quarter after they find their employment? That's more of a retention ratio. So with that, we also look at credential attainment and measurable skills. Did they learn something from us to get that job? And I can say that I made this really easy for you. All the blue squares means that we've exceeded our metrics. All the green squares mean that we've met our metrics. And yellow, on a quarterly basis, we take a look at the yellows to see what are we missing and how can we improve upon it. COVID did hit us hard. However, these metrics will not take into account COVID, so I anticipate in the next year where numbers are not going to be that great because people did lose their employment. So that is how we are measured, and those are our results at this time. We're also measured business performance. Did we engage businesses to find jobs for our citizens? Did we go back to those businesses, get more job orders for them? Did we serve them correctly? And the answer is yes. As a matter of fact, we receive financial rewards once we meet our metrics in this area for continuous improvement, and we take that money that we win and convert it back to scholarship money. So it's important. This team, the business services team, provides business engagement, and then the funds are then turned around back to our clients. So our 21-22 budget, is $16.955 million. Expenditures, this money comes directly from the Department of Labor. There are funds that are from the Department of Labor, Department of Health and Human Services, Department of Agriculture. These formula funds are based on the federal budget and the population of Palm Beach County before everybody moved down here. So these are the funds that we're looking for today. And in quick conclusion, I just want to say that CareerSource Services, our businesses, and the people of Palm Beach County, those that are hardest to serve, hardest to get into employment, those with barriers. And we're very proud of the work that we do, and we do it in the most challenging conditions. So I just want to thank you for allowing me to present today. I'll take any questions.
Very good. Are there any questions by members of the board? You recognize in motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to move to approve the CareerSource Palm Beach County fiscal year 2021-22 budget in the amount of $16,955,437 for its programs.
Second by, motion made by Vice Mayor Weinroth, seconded by Commissioner Weiss on 5B3. No public comment. We appreciate all your hard work, all your leadership. As you all are aware, the county mayor serves as the consortium chair over CareerSource, and we decided to make a change in leadership right as COVID was starting, and Julie Ditala was selected unanimously, I believe, to serve in that position, both on an interim and permanent basis, and I can't say enough positive things about your organization and the people that work there. So thank you very much for your time here today and serving our community.
And that was a vote 7-0 in favor, right?
Oh, yeah. All in favor, all opposed. That passes 7-0. All right. That brings us now to, I think, 5C2.
5B4.
Oh, yeah. 5C1. 5B4, correct? Farm share. Or,
Yeah, it's a nail.
you know what I'm talking about.
It's out of the order there.
Mr. Mayor, since I made the staff direction on this one last time, I move approval of item 5B4.
We have a motion by Commissioner McKinley, seconded by Commissioner Marino. We do have public comment. Commissioner Bernard, you recognized.
We have Marty Latour.
Well, we can't hear you.
And then we have Jamie Kendall.
You'll have to tell us in comments that you don't want to comment.
Actually, I would just like you all to take this in. You guys have been working so hard on hunger in Palm Beach County. We've been working with you, and I think this would be a nice sight for you to see. 2 food banks standing together in agreement, ready to work together, and very happy about what we've collaborated on so far. So I would like Steve Shelley to just introduce himself a little bit more to you guys.
Please, you recognize, sir.
I know I'd signed up for comment as well, but my main purpose of being here today is to introduce myself so you guys can put a face to the organization. Make my commitment to you guys that I plan to work in collaboration with you and with your administration to help solve and fight food insecurity here in Palm Beach County. And ultimately, I wanted to thank you guys for considering this resolution, for bringing this resolution forward in support of Farm Share, but also in support of the Commissioner of Agriculture's decision-making process that they had reached, and ultimately make myself available for any questions that you guys may have. Ultimately, I know this has been a very public display at times, and so we're looking forward to putting this behind us, getting this resolved, and ultimately getting to work and helping you guys feed Palm Beach County.
Very good. Before you leave, if you could just fill out a public comment card so we have oh, you did?
I did,
Very
yeah, I
good.
was in line,
Awesome.
but she pulled me up, so.
And then Commissioner McKinley, you recognized.
There's one more. Hold on.
You got
Commissioner
something.
McKinley.
I think it's
Yes,
for him,
Mr.
though.
Mr. Shelley, before you step away, I just want to thank you. This isn't the first time you've been in Palm Beach County. You've been working with a lot of our communities. And so I look forward to formalizing this process with you, or this relationship with you. But, you know, our issues in Palm Beach County, especially in the last year, were twofold. We had people who needed food, and we had farmers who were growing it and needed it for some place for that food to go. And all of the food banks were involved in helping with that distribution. But FarmShare has a special relationship with a lot of our growers, and hope that your partnership in our community in this fashion will only strengthen that partnership and that relationship with our local growers. And look forward to doing whatever my district office can do to help you with that.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you for the kind words. Thanks.
Jamie Kendall.
Thank you. I am the new CEO at the Palm Beach County Food Bank, and right when I started, the bid process was starting. And I have been with another food bank for 11 years and have managed the TFAP program and know the importance of the safety net that this program brings. And while we put our bid in ourselves and we were not the recipients of that, we are very excited to be working with FarmShare, who did win the bid, because we have already been in conversations and we know that through our partnership, we are going to be able to serve those in Palm Beach County that need it the most. So we are excited to move forward, and we thank you for the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any further public comment, Commissioner Bernard? Very good. We have a motion pending made by Commissioner McKinley and seconded by Commissioner Marino. Unless there's any further comment by members of the board, all in favor, all opposed, that item passes 7-0. We'll move now to 5C1, which is a resolution by the board relating to issuance of a Housing Finance Authority bond. Neither the taxing power nor the faith and credit of the county nor any county funds are pledged to pay the principal redemption premium, if any, on interest on the bonds.
Motion to approve the issuance of the housing finance.
Yep. I'm going to recognize Commissioner Sachs now on her statement on this issue.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And with regard to 5C1, let me note for the record that the Village of Valor is a client of Sachs Kaplan, PA, which is where my husband works. So at this time, I'm going to recuse myself. I will follow the appropriate paperwork with the Office of Legal Counsel, and I will leave the discussion and any subsequent votes at this time. With your permission, Mr. Mayor.
Very good. Thank you for that public disclosure and recusal. Is there a second to the motion? Commissioner Weiss is second to the motion, which has been made by Vice Mayor Weinroth on 5C1. There's no public comment. There's no further comments by members of the board. All in favor? All opposed? That item passes 6-0 with Commissioner Sachs recused. We're now on 5C2, Housing and Economic Development, relating to Brooks Subdivision.
Mr. Mayor, since there's no comment card on item 5C2, I'd like to make a motion to approve 5C2 A, B, C, D, and E.
Second.
Very good. We have a motion by Commissioner Bernard on 5C2 A, B, C, D, and E, seconded by Vice Mayor Weinroth. There's no public comment. There's no comments by members of the board. All in favor? All opposed? That item passes 7-0. We're now on 5C3. Housing and Economic Development, related to Section 108 Loan Program for Oxygen Development.
Mayor,
sir,
if you might, I'd like to move approval of item 5C3.
Very good. There's a motion by Commissioner Weiss on 5C3 relating to federal funds that require no local match for oxygen development located in Palm Springs, Florida, which Commissioner Weiss and I proudly represent. And it's been seconded by Vice Mayor Weinroth, and we're in public comment.
Mr. Mayor, we have Mr. Jordan Israel.
Yes. Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. I just want to thank you on behalf of Oxygen Development to have us here for today and have this up for the agenda item. I have a brief presentation, about 30 minutes, if I can just show you. Again, the support that the county has shown us has been incredible, and I hope you can see that the growth and trajectory of Oxygen over the course of the last 20 years is something that the county should be very proud of, because you guys have helped incubate that and support us, and we hope that the next 20 years consumers will be equally so. So thank you for your time and consideration, in addition to the housing support, which is also going to be very important to our initiative as well. And I'd also like to give a special shout out to the Department of Housing and Economic Sustainability, which without them, I don't think we could be here today. So I just want to make our sincere gratitude clear on the record. Thank you.
Very good and very well said. We're delighted to have you here in our county and particularly in this community of Palm Springs. He is related to Director Moskowitz. Please don't hold that against him.
Please, thank you.
But in all seriousness, Director Moskowitz, who's now stepped down from that position, has done this community an incredible service during his time as the emergency manager of the state. So please send those regards from the board to Mr. Moskowitz.
I will certainly
Thank you
do
for your
so.
comments. Commissioner Weiss, you recognize, and then we'll go to Commissioner McKinley.
Thank you very much. I just want to say I had an opportunity a couple weeks ago to go out and visit Oxygen and see what was going on out there and how impressive it is and how fortunate we are to have you all in our community. It's important, I think, to note to the public as well that originally there was a commitment made by Oxygen to create 400 jobs in Palm Beach County. They've created over 1,200 jobs, so congratulations on that. And with this new expansion, I think your plans are to more than double that again. So that's just amazing. And at the same time, doing it with a real diverse workforce and a commitment to diversity in your workforce. So exactly the kinds of businesses that we can really appreciate and have here in Palm Beach County. And as the mayor said, it's something that we share in our districts. I don't have a lot of business in District 2, but you are one of one of the major employers, so it's delighted
Your favorite,
to have it.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner Weiss. Commissioner McKinley.
Just a comment, and all while doing this, while also serving as a local elected official in his community down in Broward County, and fighting with us in the League of Cities and the Association of Counties on behalf of Home Rule. And so just wonderful proof that we do have citizen legislators, that not only you're committed to Broward County, but you're committed to Palm Beach County as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much for that.
I understand you're a Parkland City Commissioner, correct?
I am.
Good.
We don't get the luxury of these long meetings. I will tell you, though, that it's actually a very interesting stuff, and I commend all of you for all the hard work you put into this. It shows the amount of preparation and diligence, so I think all your constituents should be very proud and appreciative as well.
Well, thank you for that, and you certainly have an invitation to our budget hearing tonight as well, if you'd like to stay.
I'll think about it. Thank you, guys.
Very good. As a reminder, on 5C3, the motion has been made for passage by Commissioner Weiss and seconded by Vice Mayor Weinroth. There's no further public comment or comments by members of the board. All in favor? All opposed? That passes 7-0. We'll move now to 5D1, Engineering and Public Works, regarding resolution related to Adopt a Road program.
I would like to move 5D1 forward for approving Adopt a Road program.
Very good. The motion has been made on 5D1 by Vice Mayor Weinroth, as published, seconded by Commissioner Weiss. Is there any public comment? Any comments by members of the board? Don't sit down yet. All in favor? All opposed? Passes 7-0.
That's great. For me. All right. Thank you.
We hope to provide for a smooth transit for your agenda item. 5E1, Youth Services, allocations related to action areas of economic access, educational supports, parenting, and role models.
Any comment cards?
Any comment cards? Yes, we do. Okay, thank you. Oops, I'm speaking. Assistant County Administrator Dort Miller and her team is recognized.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. So at the table, I have our Youth Services Director, Tammy Fields, Gita, as well as Helena, our attorney, and I'll hand it over to the Director, Tammy, for a presentation.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Do you want we have a PowerPoint presentation, or we can just answer any questions you may have on any of the recommendations?
All right, well, we do have some public comment. If from public comment there's any concerns or questions, then we'll take you up on your offer. So we'll move to public comment at this time.
Okay, so we have Olga Bearhope, and she only wishes to speak if there are any questions. I have no questions. All right, and the next person is Will Romulus.
Mr. Romulus, you recognize her for 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Mayor Virginia Baker. I'm sure you guys have seen or heard of Digital Vibes, so I wanted to just come by so you guys could put the name and the faces together. And also to bring up, we are celebrating our 10th annual Kids Fit Gym-a-thon in partnership with the County Youth Services Department and also Primetime of Palm Beach County. It's the biggest concert in the whole nation, and it's housed here in Palm Beach County, where we have thousands of youth in there. So I wanted to bring that up. That's pretty much the only comment that I have. And there's a high chance that we're gonna have a celebrity joining us for this 10th annual Kids Fit Gym-a-thon at the South Florida Fairgrounds. And we're hoping to see you guys be there to take part in it and shake the kids' hand and say hello and all those good things. It's July 29th. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you so much for your comments and your leadership. I'll note that Digital Vibes is recommended for $113,000 in funding as part of the Digital Expressions Lifetime of Consequences program and project.
Maybe the mayor will vote on this if he's the celebrity.
You think I'm the celebrity that's going? I'll be there, but I won't be the celebrity.
The next person will be Elle Harrigan, followed by Caitlin Harkins.
Thank you, County Commissioners, for your time today. I'm Elle Harrigan. I'm the Director of Grants and Stewardship at Girl Scouts of Southeast Florida. And I'm speaking on behalf of our over 2,000 Girl Scouts in Palm Beach County and 500 adult members, parents. It is an honor to be recommended for funding and a closer relationship with Palm Beach County Youth Services Department. Our Girl Scouts have active troops in each of your districts, and we serve girls kindergarten to 12th grade, focusing this year specifically on mental health. And we are really trying to be a change agent for social and emotional learning to ensure our girls build courage, confidence, and character, and will continue to build a world that is a better place. Our robust programming will include diversity, equity, and inclusion training that has been specifically designed for each grade level. Our STEM program will continue to engage girls in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And of course, our civic engagement will probably include you as well throughout all of Girl Scouts. Our high school girls will be completing a year-long mentorship, concluding with an internship during the summer with local businesswomen, and our parents will be receiving in-depth personal development courses on how to engage with their Gen Z and Alpha children with explicit goals to elevate parents' tools and becoming an informed advocate. Girl Scouts has operated in Palm Beach County for over 100 years, and we will continue to serve our girls through our troops, our camps, and our council-led programming. Thank you so much for your time and your consideration.
Very good. Commissioner McKinley, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you. I participate in Girl Scouts by eating your cookies. I understand that COVID has had quite an impact on your organization. You've had to lay off a lot of staff. Will that have any impact on your ability to provide the services under this grant?
It will not. This grant will actually help to ensure that the staff we have will continue, and we're able to bring on one more staff member who's going to be looking specifically at the social and emotional pillar. So,
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have Caitlin Harkins.
Good afternoon. I'm Caitlin Harkins from Children of Inmates.
Can you move just a little closer to the microphone? Thank you, so we can hear you.
My name is Caitlin Harkins from Children of Inmates. I want to thank you all for being here today and recognizing our request for funding for next year. I don't have any further comments unless anyone has any questions. We provide our Babies and Brains program through the Palm Beach County Jail, which provides parenting classes, and throughout COVID, we've been providing a lot of different programs and working with the community, and I really am grateful for all your support.
Very good. Thank you for your comments, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, we do have some non-speaking comment cards from Elahida Rodriguez, that's in support from Vida Nova. Kristen Calder from the Literacy Coalition, that supports. Brianna Lewis, and it states that I'm in support of the recommendation of funding for the Planned Parenthood of South, East, and North Florida. Christine Wright. I support the Youth Services Funding Organization. Amy Seigel Brown, available for any questions. Roxanne Jacobs, available for any questions. Carrie DeBall, non-speaking.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner Bernard. Commissioner McKinley, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you. Can't go without noting that Kristen Calder is a past president of the Junior League of Boca Raton, and Steve Abrams would be impressed that I mentioned that today. With that, I'd like to commend staff. There's some new organizations on here, and it's nice to learn about other activities that are taking place in our county. I do have one concern about a project that was admitted, and I'll bring that up during tonight's budget hearing. But with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve item 5E1.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner McKinley on 5E1 relating to 14 programs being funded at a rate of $1.130 million. And it's been seconded by Vice Mayor Weinroth. There's no further comments by members of the board. Did you have any last comments that you'd like to make?
Just to thank you to the board.
Very good. All in favor? All opposed? 5E1 passes 7-0. Thank you very much for your time today. We're now on 6F1 on the regular agenda related to the Lake Worth Drainage District.
5F1.
5F1.
I will move 5F1, A, B, and C, and this exchange must be approved by a supermajority vote of 5 commissioners.
Mayor, can I just have 1 second before he makes the motion so I can transition?
Sorry about that.
Just give me 1 second.
How many TDRs are on this parcel?
I'm all set. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you so much. So we're back on 5F1, A, B, and C. Requires a supermajority vote relating to a conveyance of property to Lake Worth Drainage District. Vice Mayor Weinroth, you recognized.
Yeah, I'm going to move a motion to approve 5F1, A, B, C.
Is there a second? Motion is made by Vice Mayor Weinroth, seconded by Commissioner Weiss. No public comment or comments by members of the board. All in favor, all opposed. 5F1, A, B, C passes 7-0. We're now on 5F2 relating to an interlocal agreement with the Westgate CRA related to a fire station. Ms. May, you recognized.
I don't think we need a presentation on this, so 5F2 is being moved to approve, but we need a supermajority of 5 commissioners.
Very good. Is there a second? There's a motion by Vice Mayor Weinroth on 5F2 relating to a fire station in the Westgate CRA area and the interlocal agreement, seconded by Commissioner Weiss. There's no public comment or comments by members of the board. All in favor, all opposed. That item passes 7-0 on 5F2. We're on 5G1, Parks and Recreation, regarding resolution of the BCC regarding Thanksgiving, the day after Thanksgiving being Family Day in Palm Beach County.
Mr. Mayor, I'll go ahead and move the adoption of item 5G1.
Second.
Very good. Commissioner McKinley has moved forward the resolution on 5G1, seconded by Vice Mayor Weinroth. There's no further comments by members of the board or the public. All in favor, all opposed. The item passes 7-0. We're now on to 6A1, board appointments relating to the Housing and Economic Development Department. And it relates specifically to the Commission on Affordable Housing. We have an obligation here to appoint one nominee to this commission. And there seems to be more than one nominee.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to go ahead and move approval of Len Tilka, Ezra Krieg, Corey O'Gorman, Adam Campbell, Timothy Kopich, Elliot Johnson, Aquanette Thomas, and Amy Robbins.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner McKinley, seconded by Vice Mayor Weinroth on 6A1. As published, with the exception of the real estate professional, which requires further adjudication. Commissioner Marino, you're recognized.
Thank you. I'm actually going to talk about the real estate professional one. So
Okay, all these appointments that have been moved by Commissioner McKinley are uncontested, so there's no public comment or further comments by the board. All in favor, all opposed. That passes 7-0. We're now on the real estate professional appointment to this commission, and the two nominees are Joey Eichner or Linda Charles, and you recognize Commissioner Marino.
Thank you. I appreciate all the nominations that have been put forth already, and I would like to say that this would be my first nomination of anyone to this board, and I would appreciate Joey Eichner being appointed. He is a true real estate professional. I know that there's been some discussion about what the definition of real estate professional is for this category. He is, and you probably have either spoken to him or gotten his resume, a true real estate professional, broker, seller, has worked in the housing community for a very long time, is on the board of Renaissance. So I would appreciate support of Joey Eichner for this position.
Very good.
Second.
I'm going to consider that a nomination for Joey Eichner. I don't believe it requires a second. I think the proper format is that we vote on the nominations presented by the board. So is there a nomination for Linda Charles? I'll recognize Commissioner McKinley.
Yes, thank you. I solicited feedback from constituents in my community about this particular position. The name Linda Charles was provided to me in keeping in mind the goals of the county in terms of representation on these boards. When you look at the current gender ratio on this particular board of 2 female and 8 men, I'd like to increase that 2 to a 3, and I am nominating Linda Charles.
We have nominations for Joey Eichner and Linda Charles. I don't see any other nominations by members of the board, so we'll start with Joey Eichner. I'll ask all those in support of Joey Eichner to raise their hand. 1, 2. Commissioner Sachs, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
All right, so I can't see your hand, so I'm gonna ask if you wanted to vote for Joey Eichner.
I don't know this person at this time, so no.
Very good. So we'll move now to the nomination of Linda Charles. All those in favor of Linda Charles, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. And Commissioner Sachs, are you 5, I assume?
Yes, I'm 5.
Very good. So Linda Charles is appointed to this board under the real estate profession category on a vote of 5 to 2. And we appreciate the nomination of Joey Eichner and hope that he'll stay involved in our local government. We'll move now to 6B, Commission District Appointments. And if we can just take a very quick recess so I can talk with Mr. Bernhardt, because I know that I have an appointment of some sort, but I don't see it. All right, we'll start with District 1, Commissioner Marino.
Not at this time.
All right, did you want to be recognized, or is the light on from prior? Okay. Commission District 2.
None at this time.
Commission District 3, we're going to skip that person for just a moment. Go to the Vice Mayor and Commission District 4.
There are none in District 4.
In District 5, Commissioner Sachs, any appointment?
Yes.
Very good.
Yes, Commissioner Sachs would like to reappoint Yvonne Block to the Discover the Palm Beaches Board.
Second.
Very good. We have a motion by Commissioner Sachs, seconded by Vice Mayor Weinroth. All in favor? All opposed? That appointment passes 7 to 0. Any further appointments, ma'am?
No, not at this time. Thank you.
Very good. We'll move now to Commission District 6, Commissioner McKinley.
Thanks for not forgetting about me.
Yes, ma'am. I wouldn't do that twice.
I have no appointments, thank you.
And then Commissioner District 7, Commissioner Bernard. None at this time. We'll go back to District 3, and if you can make this motion for me, sir.
Absolutely, Mayor. On your behalf, I'd like to reappoint Salvatore Manuel to what, I don't know when I'm reappointing him to.
The Library Board.
The Library Board. It's my pleasure.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Motion made by Vice Mayor Weinroth on my behalf, seconded by Commissioner Bernard for Salvatore Manuel to the Library Board. All in favor? All opposed? That item passes 7 to 0. We're now on to agenda item 7, staff comments. We'll start with our county administrator, Ms. Verdina Baker.
No comments.
God bless. 7B, county attorney.
No comments, thank you.
Even better. All right. Agenda item 8, District 1, Commissioner Maria Marino, and Commissioner comments.
Well, considering it's 2:30, I think I'll skip my comments.
All right. District 2, Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you, Mayor. On behalf of Mounds Botanical Gardens, I would like to request an off-site proclamation proclaiming June 21st through 27th as National Pollinator Week in Palm Beach County.
Very good. A motion for off-site proclamation by Commissioner Weiss, seconded by Commissioner McKinley. All in favor, all opposed? That's approved unanimously, 7-0.
No other comments, sir.
Very good. We'll go now to District 5, Commissioner Maria Sachs.
No comments at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. District 6, Commissioner McKinley.
Yes, two things. First is a request for an off-site proclamation, slightly different than Commissioner Bernard's, but declaring June 19th, 2021 as Juneteenth Day in the Glades.
Very good. Off-site proclamation for June 19th, 2021 has been moved by Commissioner McKinley and seconded by Vice Mayor Weinroth. All in favor, all opposed, that item passes 7-0. Further comments?
Yes, and I know it's 2:30, but this one's important. You know, we were able to open up this morning's meeting with a moment of silence on what happened at Publix last week in Royal Palm Beach. I have been in conversation with the mayor, Fred Pinto, and we are seeking staff direction or your permission to put together a community roundtable to discuss the aftermath of this incident. I have reached out to our state attorney, Dave Ehrenberg, and I have reached out to Sheriff Bradshaw. They are both, schedule permitting, willing to participate. It's my desire to bring those two community partners along with a request to Ann Berner, representing our managing entity for behavioral health and substance use, as well as any appropriate community staff, our county staff that provides services related to an incident like this. The purpose to talk about the level of gun violence in our community, to talk about the existing laws that exist in state and federal statute, but also, as Sheriff Bradshaw pointed out in his press conference last Friday, this particular incident, had somebody reported some of the social media posts of the shooter in this incident, this may have been prevented. So I've asked if he or his designee could talk about how those reporting, how that reporting can take place, what the red flag law in the state of Florida means, and how somebody would utilize that, but also to talk about the available services in our community for the victims, for the witnesses, for our first responders, and the services that are, and Ann Berner would be able to talk about the services that are provided to those suffering from mental illness in our community. This particular shooter, as reported by the Sheriff's Department, had a diagnosis of schizophrenia, how we may have been able to provide help. And so having this community meeting, I would like support from the board in requesting that staff help me put that together.
Very good. Thank you for those comments and board direction. I don't think there's any objection to the board directing administration to accommodate this very important public dialogue and forum.
Thank you, Mayor Kerner, and I'd like to give a special thanks to Mayor Pinto for being willing to partner with me on this.
Very good. Thank you for bringing this to the board's attention, the forum and dialogue. No further comments. We'll go now to District 7, Commissioner Bernard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to do two off-site proclamation. One, recognizing Willie Spence as the second place winner in the season finale of American Idol. And second, which is to request an off-site proclamation declaring June 19th, 2021 as Juneteenth Day in Palm Beach County.
Motion by Commissioner Bernard for two off-site proclamations as published, seconded by Commissioner Weiss. All in favor, all opposed, that passes 7-0. We'll return now to the Vice Mayor, District 4, for his comments.
Thank you. And certainly our community continues to confront situations. I mean, the one that we had, the shooting was certainly something that's heartbreaking, especially to hear the victims of this senseless violence. You know, our residents need to acknowledge that, you know, if they see something, they're going to say something. I think the sheriff made it very plain that there were warning signs out there, and everybody certainly, if it doesn't take much to just acknowledge that this was there, to communicate that information to law enforcement and let them take the lead on this. We also had a terrible incident in District 4 where there was a motor vehicle crash where several victims died in the car, and 2 victims in a separate car that just happened to be in the intersection at the time also lost their lives. It was a situation that we're looking at as far as how this could be addressed, whether it was excessive speed or whether there's some engineering issues. But again, all I can do is say that our residents need to be mindful and drive defensively, and you know, it takes just a second for this to happen, and it just reminded me personally of something that happened 24 years ago where we had a similar incident, very, very similar, where a group of young teens were killed because of, again, excessive speed. So it's heartbreaking to see these situations. On a more happier note, our town of Lantana is going to be celebrating its 100th anniversary. And with respect to that, I'd like to ask for permission to have an off-site proclamation to celebrate their 100th anniversary.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Wanroth, who's moved an off-site proclamation forward, seconded by Commissioner Weiss. All in favor, all opposed. That's approved 7-0.
Very good, and looking forward to seeing everybody back here at 6.
All right, Commissioner McKinley, you're recognized, ma'am.
Yeah, I need to make one more comment related to last Thursday. This county has, and a lot because of me, has put Publix on a national platform. I want you all to know what an absolutely wonderful community partner they have been since this incident happened. Their cooperation with law enforcement, their cooperation with fire rescue. I spoke to their government affairs director, Tommy Culligan, late last week. He was very open to having our victim services come in and debrief, offering mental health services. They have been phenomenal. And I took that opportunity to also thank Publix for their partnership throughout the whole COVID pandemic as well, and all the good things that they've done. You know, my criticism, I made sure to clarify that, was just that we didn't have one. It wasn't because they were our partner here, and he certainly appreciated those comments. And I also let him know that I worked there when I was 15, and so I'm sure he's looking at my personnel record now. But Publix has been an absolutely phenomenal corporation to work with in light of what happened last week.
Very good. Thank you for those added comments, Commissioner McKinley. And I'll close with 2 very brief but important comments. First and foremost, a dear friend of ours and someone we care deeply, and the best county attorney I've ever worked with in my short time as a county commissioner, has a very important milestone birthday on Sunday. Miss Denise Marie Neiman, who we love and cherish, so happy birthday.
Thank you. This is my last board meeting at 59. I'm really excited about that. Thank you. That was really nice.
Well, happy 60th birthday on Sunday.
I appreciate that.
Any special plans?
I don't know.
They're privileged, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
Privileged, attorney-client privilege.
Still in the works, you know. I have a lot going on, so.
Very good. Well, happy birthday, and we're delighted you're here with us on your, working with us.
Happy Father's Day to all the fathers, because that's that day too.
Well, that excludes me, fortunately, at this time. Second comment is I had the honor and pleasure of joining the Governor DeSantis at the Fraternal Order of Police Conference in Orlando this weekend, where representatives, oh, you know what, I missed District 6, didn't I? No. Okay. Where representatives of the 24,000 members of that police union were there. About 200 to 300 people attended, And it was an incredible moment for a dear friend and colleague of mine, Mr. David Bernhardt, who was selected by this organization to be the member of the year for the entire organization. So I'd like to give him a round of applause. And he serves as the second vice president statewide for the Fraternal Order of Police. I served as a union representative for our FOP up in Gainesville, so we have a deep history with it, and it's uniquely special honor for both of us to see that happen. So congrats, Mr. Barnhart, and we'll see you all back here at 6 p.m. for our budget conference. Did you have further comments, Commissioner Sachs? Just saying thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you for allowing me to be in this meeting.
Absolutely. We'll see you then, and the board is adjourned. Thank you.